in the chat box. And yeah, if there's any questions, we'll be here to answer them as we go along as well. So without further ado, I'm just going to introduce you to Thakur Thapa, who is the head of programs for Renewable World in Nepal. Thakur is very new. He joined us on the 16th of August. We're absolutely delighted to have him with us. He joins us from Caritas Switzerland, where he was the program country manager. He's got 15 years of experience of working in the development sector, with lots of broad experience and expertise, including issues such as food security, which is going to become more and more important, climate change adaptation, which is very current, and improvement in basic public infrastructure for schools, community water systems, etc. So we're absolutely delighted to have Thakur in Nepal to lead our program team. Thakur has a bachelor in civil engineering from Nepal and a master's in integrated water management from Australia. And he's keen to learn and contribute to protect the natural and built environment, and has a special interest in building resilient communities, which really chimes with our work here in Renewable World. And his interests include English Premier League. We'll have to ask you which team you particularly support, Wimbledon, and table tennis, interestingly. A small introduction to Lisa O'Doherty as well, which some of you will know, who is our Director of Programs here for Renewable World, and she brings with her 20 years of experience in international development, fundraising and tourism, amongst other expertises and specialisms. Started out as an intern for ActionAid Nepal, and went on to specialise in programme design at Rally International and Save the Children, and Renewable World has certainly benefited from that expertise, and she's been really instrumental in growing our Nepal programme, and we'll be looking towards growing the Kenya programme as of next year. She's got a master's in anthropology and geography and a bachelor's in anthropology and geography and a master's in sustainable development, both from SOAS in London, and also has a passion for enabling communities to adapt to the inevitability of climate change. When you don't see Lisa working in the office, and she works very long hours, you're likely to see her hiking in the hills, previously in Nepal, probably now the South Downs, etc. So just wanted to give a warm welcome to our two contributors and hand over to Lisa.
Thanks very much for that introduction. Very nice to have this opportunity to speak to everyone this morning. Nice to see so many people out so early coming to listen to hear all about our Y4WASH project. So I am just going to set the scene a little bit, give you an outline of the project, how we came to develop this, and sort of the funding that we have, situation that we have, and then I'll give you a bit of information on exactly what we want to achieve through this project. And I'll talk a little bit about the journey towards this project as well, so some of the previous projects we've done and how that gave birth effectively to this project. And then I'm going to hand over to Thakur to tell you a little bit more about the location of the project and talk through some of the stories of people that he's met who have benefited from our projects or will benefit from this project. So Y4WASH is an exciting project for us, as Mari just said. It's born out of sort of a long-standing program that we've been delivering, which is our Solar Moose project, which many of you will be familiar with. So Solar Moose is solar-powered water lifting for multiple uses. And we've been running this program for a long time, all the way through from a sort of an innovative pilot many years ago when we piloted this technology, which at the time wasn't available in Nepal, and was imported initially from Spain. When we first started piloting this project, you couldn't get the technology in Nepal. We've done several versions of this project now. So we've built it up. We've done SolarMoose 1, 2, and 3, which we've just done a closing workshop for, which I'll tell you a little bit more about in a moment. And now we're at the stage where we're delivering SolarMoose projects. The technology is available in Nepal. There's a strong supply chain. All the technology is available. There's vendors available. So it's a very different scenario to when we first started delivering this technology. And traditionally, the way that we've worked on these SolarMoose projects is we've lifted water to hilltop communities across Nepal, delivering water to hard to reach communities who otherwise get left behind. So communities where people are walking several hours a day just to collect water at a water source that's not only far away, but also probably quite far down from where they live. So people are walking up and down mountains effectively to gather this water. And as I said, traditionally, we've been supporting communities to sort of change their economic circumstances by lifting water and then helping them generate an income through that water use. So, for example, for agriculture in particular, using that water to grow crops and sell. So building on that, we noticed that one of the components within the projects that we've been doing is a basic sort of sanitation and hygiene campaign. And we've really seen the change that has had on people. So decreasing sort of instances of illness through unclean water and lifting water to schools where they happen to be in a community. And this led us to think, let's adapt this. So this is how this project has come about. So whereas before we focused on communities and built in school if they happen to be there, the project now for Y4WASH turns that on its head, and it puts schools right at the center of the project. So identifying that children in school really struggle to go to school, particularly girls, struggle to attend school if there's no water. It's very difficult to maintain hygiene and if there's no if there's no water at the school and also no good facilities. And this stops girls in particular from attending school at all because it just puts them off going to school. So we've developed this project to lift this water in Gorkha, which is an area that Taco will tell you about in a little while, to lift this water to the schools and their surrounding communities, building infrastructure in the schools, so building toilets, building hygiene facilities, putting in water filters, and then sort of working with the whole community to help lift up that sanitation and hygiene, which is so important to the health of an entire community. So we've originally developed this project with our partner organization, Rally International, and also a local partner, Gorkha, who are a local partner who would help us deliver this project in Gorkha. And originally, we worked very hard to secure funding from what was then DFID, the Department for International Development for the UK. And we were absolutely delighted when we secured the entire funding for this project, which originally was going to be in 15 communities. This was brilliant. We worked a long time. It took us a year to secure this money. And so once we secured that money, we were so excited, and we've signed agreements with the government to deliver this project. We've talked to local communities, local governments. We've planned this project. We've identified the communities. And then we've had this funding, unfortunately, whipped out from underneath us. So as I'm sure you're aware, there was a change over the last year in sort of the funding from the UK government being channeled towards development, which resulted in a number of cuts to overseas aid. And sadly, we got caught up in this. So money that we had that we thought was secured didn't materialize in the end. That contract didn't come to pass. So this has left us devastated, actually, and also the communities and local government who were expecting this project to come this year. So really, we're doing everything we can now to honour that commitment to those communities, to honour the commitment to bring the water to the villages. They've had it sort of dangling in front of them, the water is coming, and we're doing everything in our power to make that a reality for them. So we have decided that by hook or by crook, we are going to go ahead with this project, hoping to start in January and hoping to be able to, go to these communities where they're waiting for us. So can you go on to the next slide? Someone move to the next slide.
Sorry, just a brief PowerPoint.
Okay, so thanks, Emily. So what do we want to achieve under this? So the main thing, obviously, as I said, is we want to increase access to safe water for 2,400 people. That's including 660 school children in 6 communities. And as I said, these are hilltop communities where it's really limited access to water. So this would really be a game changer for them. Then building on that, we want to build a sustained practice of safe water, sanitation and hygiene behaviour. So that's teaching things like safe hand washing, filtering water, boiling water. So how to make that water, once it's lifted to their community, safe for them to use. And then we also focus on improved governance, management and maintenance of the water schemes in these communities. So that's making sure that once these water systems are installed, that they continue to function, so they're sustainable. They have a lifespan of 20 to 25 years, but that does come with a lot of planning and maintenance. So we support communities through projects like this, and through this project, we would support them in setting up an operation and a maintenance fund, so that if there's any need for repairs or replacements, they'll have the money to do that. We'll also help set up a water user committee. So there's a committee across the community involving members of the school management committee to manage those systems as well. So it's giving access to water, helping ensure that schools and communities know how to safely use that water, and helping them manage those systems so that they're maintained into the long run. Can you go to the next slide, please? Emily, can you go to the next slide?
Sorry, Lisa, it's just not moving on. So just carry on and I'll catch up.
I'll just carry on. Okay, so what I'm going to tell you about now is a little bit about some of the solar moose that we've already delivered in countries to demonstrate the experience we have in projects like this. So to date, we've already delivered 35 of these systems across 12 different districts in Nepal. And together, that's a cumulative effect of pumping 1 billion litres of water since these systems were installed, which you can imagine the huge impact that has on communities. We've also got 11 systems currently underway in ongoing projects that we're delivering across Nepal. So now I just wanted to show you, hopefully the slide will come up if you can. Okay, there we go. So if we can go on to the next slide now. Okay. Just to sort of give you some examples of the results of projects we've done so far, results that we hope to replicate in Gorkha for these new communities. So Solar Moose 3 is a project we have just closed, and it's been a 3.5-year project in West Nepal, delivering water to 10 communities. We've just completed the evaluation. We've just got the results in this week, so this is hot off the press. We've had some really fantastic results in this. So 93% of people reached have reported that they've got adequate water now for drinking, cooking and sanitation. 78%, they said they can better maintain livestock. So we should not forget the animals. These are communities that are dependent on agriculture and livestock. And livestock, as you can imagine, when we're talking about buffaloes and goats, they need a huge amount of water as well. This is water previously that community members also had to carry up the hill on their backs for their livestock. So obviously with this water, they can now maintain more livestock. And then really exciting is the number of households who are now growing a kitchen garden in their back garden. So this is essentially land that was fallow before, or maybe using for one crop a year. They're now using for multiple crops. So at the beginning of the project, just 13% of households had a kitchen garden, and now we've reached 85%. So that's a huge increase. That's something we're so proud of. And it's a delight when you go to these communities and you can see these concrete benefits to the communities. Then a couple of other stats I just wanted to share with you, which are sort of unexpected consequences, things that you don't think about as the most obvious change that you're going to see. So for example, 95% of respondents have said that violence and conflict no longer occur in their villages because so much conflict was happening around the water source. People are essentially everyone is trying to get to the water. There's long queues. There's people, trying to get to the water first. There's arguments over who was there first or how long you can access that water source for. So that's a huge change. The 95% say that's no longer occurring. And also 98% of respondents said that their family stress level had decreased. So sort of from a mental health and well-being perspective, this is something brilliant to see, that such a tangible change in people's lives is reducing stress. So that's contributing to mental health and well-being as well. And as you can see from some of the quotes here, that this work is really being appreciated by communities and also from deputy mayors and mayors, which is something that's been replicated across the districts we work in, where we've now got local governments such as that in Gorkha, where we want to deliver this project, approaching us and asking us to please come and deliver these projects. So that's all from me. Thank you very much for listening to that. I'm going to hand you over now to Thakur, our head of programs in Nepal, to talk a little bit more about the project.
Thanks, Lisa. Hello, everyone. Namaste. Warm welcome from Kathmandu. I will briefly explain Gorkha, the proposed project location, and a case story from my recent field visit to one of the solar-based multi-use water scheme supported by Renewable World. So starting with Gorkha, this district is part of Gandaki province, where I also come from, and it is one of the 75 districts of Nepal. And this district is actually categorized under most remote districts. The district is extended up to the Himalayas and borders with Tibet in the north. You might have heard about recent, our 2015 earthquakes in Nepal. So Gorkha is actually the epicenter of these devastating earthquakes, which killed nearly 9,000 people and injured nearly 3 times as many. The rural death toll may have been minimized by the fact that most villagers were working outdoors when the earthquake hit, and schools were closed on that day. It was a Saturday, and thousands of houses were destroyed, with entire villages flattened, especially those near the epicenter. So with the earthquakes, the situation has further worsened in Gorkha, such as malnutrition has further increased among women and children. School dropouts have increased. The situation of basic services, such as health, sanitation, and water has further deteriorated, and the affected population has comparatively become economically poorer, due to this earthquake. Government and donors have done a lot of works for reconstruction, and they mainly focused on shelter and reconstruction of schools and historical monuments after the earthquakes. And this has led to the gaps in the reconstruction of basic public infrastructures, such as drinking water system and irrigation. Emily, next slide, please. So now I would like to share a case story from my recent field visit to one of the solar-based multi-use water scheme supported by Renewable World. This is a story of a woman. Her name is Lalita Devi, whom I met during my recent field visit. She is now 47, and she grew up drinking water from khal. So this khal is a local name for earthen pond built often in a public area in the village. So water is collected in this pond during rainy season, and the collected water is used for domestic purposes, including for drinking during dry season. And about 5 years ago, a gravity water system was built, but providing only 2 water taps for 82 households. However, the water at source was small and unreliable, especially during dry season. The water flow from the 2 taps was so small that either people had to wait for hours to get just a pot of water, or walk 1.5 hours one way down the hill and carry water pot uphill, or use water from the khal or this pond located in the village. So with the solar water pumping system built recently in the village with the support of Renewable World, now the community members have individual water taps at their houses. Many of them have started vegetable farming. Lalita Devi, who is in the picture here, expressed her joy and gratitude to the project, and she mentioned that this is really a dream come true for her. So this solar-based multi-use water scheme has become a game changer in the lives of about 550 community members from 82 households. So there is actually a big need and opportunity for Renewable World to help similar communities in Nepal. With the benefits local government and communities have experienced from these Renewable World supported projects, local governments are willing to match more funds to Renewable World projects, which Lisa also mentioned previously. Next slide, please. So I would like to introduce to our key staff in Nepal proposed for this project. Baburam, so he's the Global Technical Manager, and he has been managing the technical aspects of projects implemented by Renewable World since 2014, yeah. And he has a bachelor's degree in civil engineering, master's degree in water resources engineering, and postgraduate course on renewable energy technology. And in addition to managing technical aspects, some of his key expertise includes project development in renewable energy, WASH, and community infrastructure, as well as private sector engagement, capacity building, and partnership development. And the second man in the picture is Prakash, who is one of the project managers managing Renewable World projects, and he brings wealth of experience in WASH, trail bridge, solar pumping, water supply and sanitation, ropeway, and renewable energy, especially in the field of micro hydropower development for rural electrification. So just before joining Renewable World, he worked as WASH coordinator in the WASH project to help people in earthquake affected areas after the devastating this Gorkha earthquake 2015. And Sarika, our head of finance and operation, she brings over 16 years of administration, financial management, and operation expertise to her role at Renewable World. She has worked in various capacities across national and international development organizations in Nepal to ensure internal control system and financial accountability for non-for-profit making organizations. Sarika has received a master's degree in finance and has earned her PhD in management from India. She has personal interest in area of renewable energy for sustainable livelihood as well. And Devendra Bahadur Karki, our most experienced person, joined Renewable World in March 2021 as Regional Technical Officer. Devendra has completed diploma in water supply and environmental sanitation and has over 30 years of experience working in international and national non-governmental organizations in the field of water and sanitation. community development, food security, institutional capacity building, and skill-based training related to drinking water and sanitation. During his career, he has already visited more than 60 districts of Nepal, exploring the dynamics and diversity of communities in Nepal. And he enjoys working among and with communities and exploring new places. So yeah, now I'd like to hand over to Mari, please.
That's great. Thank you so much. And thank you to Lisa as well for the gallop through the Y4WASH programme. Before I hand over to questions to our guests, I just wanted to introduce Phil Brown, our new CEO, who started, I think it was just a month ago. And also to Catherine Johnson, our Senior Communications Officer. So we're really, really delighted that we're strengthening our UK team as well as growing our Nepal team. Yeah, so any questions for them in particular or to any other members of the team? I'll just field some questions on the project at the moment before I hand over to Emily to tell you about the campaign.
I had a question, Mary, may I?
Yes, please do,
Yes.
Diana.
My question was, how have these communities fared in COVID, and has this, obviously this water and ability for higher hygiene levels has obviously been really essential during the COVID pandemic, but that was really my question.
Just hand over to Lisa to respond.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Yeah, so these communities are sort of like the rest of Nepal, really. There's a similar situation across Nepal. One of the main impacts from COVID, so COVID sort of swept across Nepal last year, and Nepal went into one of the most extensive lockdowns globally. So Nepal went into full lockdown at the end of March last year, when I was in Nepal at that time. I was still based in Nepal, when there was literally a handful of cases. So the country knew that it didn't have the health infrastructure to cope if the pandemic sort of raged out of control. And so it went into lockdown immediately, effectively. So there was no, for example, there were emergency flights out of the country, but other than that, borders were closed, all activity stopped. There was no movement, all businesses closed, and this went on. So it was over 100 days full lockdown, and then it was partially locked down, and it gradually had opened again by sort of October, which is the Dasai main festival period in Nepal. And then sort of things started coming back to life again. And then Nepal again went into lockdown this year when a second wave hit. So sort of around April time, when there was that, probably people heard it on the news more about India than Nepal. There was that second wave that swept across India, which was really well publicized. And what was less well publicized was that wave swept straight through India and straight up over the border and into Nepal. So any news you saw about India, the situation was replicated across the border sort of a week or two later. And so Nepal again went into complete lockdown from April through to July this year. So actually Nepal has been lucky in that the death rate actually stayed extremely low, which, so from a sort of a health perspective, was a relief. But the main impact on the country has been economic. It's been a huge impact. The job losses have been enormous, with a lot of people working as day laborers. So there was no income. In the UK, we're so lucky to have the furlough scheme. Whatever its problems or whatever its challenges, we should be so grateful it existed. There's no such thing in Nepal. When people didn't have work, they simply didn't have work, and they simply didn't have food. So there were cases when lockdown started, when all transport stopped, of people walking on foot 100 to 200 kilometers to try and get home by foot. It was the only way to get home, and begging on the way home to get food.
And the schools, I suppose, were closed as well through all that period.
Schools are, now Taka will correct me if I'm wrong, but up to a couple of weeks ago, schools were still closed. They never opened.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, so they were shut.
Taka, did you want to come in there and just tell us a little bit as well on that?
Schools have started opening from this week only, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, and like my son, you know, he was not willing to go to school because it's been such a long time. You know, it's like, you know, very different you know, environment, and especially those children, you know, who have never been to school, who started school as from online course or from online class. It's really completely, you know, a different type of environment now.
So I think we can see the importance and the relevance of these programs that actually, you know, give every assistance to particularly schools to get back and functioning as soon as possible, because there's an awful lot of catching up to do. Presumably tech was quite in short supply as well, so only available to you know, more well-off families. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And one thing is that an impact we're expecting to see is, I mean, Nepal has struggled for a long time to sort of have, you know, equal access to school for girls. So it tends to be the boys who definitely go to school and the girls trying to drop out earlier. With schools being shut for a year, there's now an expectation, which we'll probably see realized over the next few months, that of all the children that dropped out over this last year, the children that haven't been in school, it's more likely that the boys will go back, and we might see permanent dropouts of girls. So in schools where they're already challenged of going to school because there's no water, and now they've been out of school for a year, you know, we need to do everything we can to help these children get back into school.
Yeah, and that was also proven actually immediately after the earthquake, when the school was closed for about 2 or 3 months, just 2 or 3 months. The rate of girls, you know, dropping out from school was comparatively higher, you know, compared to the boys. So this is quite, I mean, something, you know, we have experienced already in the past.
Yeah. Okay, thank you both. Any other questions? No. Oh, okay. So I thank you very much, and huge apologies for the tech issues there. I think memo to South, pass on the presentation to someone else to take care of. So but thank you for bearing with me, particularly you, Lisa, that we're at the sharp end of that. I'd like to hand over to Emily now to take us through the Big Give campaign. So over to you, Emily.
Hi, thank you, Mary. Okay, so I'm going to talk you through what our big fundraising campaign is. So you've now had a little bit about the project, the communities and the people that we're trying to help. So this fundraising campaign, the Big Give Christmas Challenge, is the mechanism that we're using to help raise the funds that we need to deliver the first phase of this project, starting, as Lisa said, in January 2022, so that's very soon. So first of all, what is the Big Give Christmas Challenge? Well, it is the UK's biggest online match funding campaign. It runs for 7 days, and during this time, individual supporters of participating charities have the opportunity to get their donation doubled. And this is all donations have to be made on the Big Give website. So when I talk about match funding, where does that match funding come from? Well, we've already worked really hard to secure a pot of match funding, which totals £50,000, and this is funding for the Y4WASH project. This match funding pot is basically what enables donations made during the challenge week to be doubled. And our match funding pots this year is provided by the EQ Foundation, who we are very happy to have joining us on the call today. And an extra special thank you goes out to them for their support. And some of the match funding is also provided by some of our existing supporters. So then on to our aim for the Christmas Challenge. So we've set ourselves a very ambitious target. We're aiming during this period, during these 7 days, to raise £100,000 for Y4WASH. In order to hit our target, we need to receive online donations that total £50,000 during the challenge week. And this will allow us to unlock the pot of match funding that we have that totals £50,000. So you have the £50,000 in donations, you release the match, and then we get our £100,000 target. So that is what we're aiming to do. In terms of when and where you can make a donation. So firstly, this is a very strictly time-bound campaign. So you can only donate during very specific times. The campaign opens at midday on Tuesday, the 30th of November. So that's 3 weeks from today. And then it closes at midday on the 7th of December. And just a note that these timings, midday, that's UK time. So, you know, if you're in a different time zone, just remember to account for that. And you can't make a donation before that. The donation button is blanked out. And once we hit midday on the 7th of December, again, the donation button is blanked out. So it's very strictly between those dates. But during that period of 7 days, if you go onto our campaign page on the Big Give website, any donations you make will be doubled, and that's up to a total of £50,000. Next slide, please. So, what we're asking you today is, can you help us raise the funds needed to get this long-awaited project finally off the ground in 2022? And can you help us unlock the full pots of match funding of £50,000 and help us hit our £100,000 target? So without receiving donations totaling £50,000 during the challenge week, we won't get to access that much match funding. So we really need to try as hard as we can to hit that donation target of £50,000 to enable us to unlock and receive the full pot of match funding that has been committed. So what we're asking you to do today, because as I've said, you know, donations don't open yet, is to please pledge your support for now. And let us know how much you plan to give during the challenge week. So we have a pledge form online on our website, which I will share with you. So I'll drop it in the chat in a minute, and I'll also email it out to you. So if you fill in our pledge form, we will be in touch when donations open at midday on the 30th of November. So we'll give you a reminder that donations are open, and we'll let you know where you need to go to complete your donation and how you can get it doubled. So we have actually already received donation pledges totaling £25,000. So that we've had that committed already. So that will essentially unlock the first £25,000 of match funding. So that's already almost £50,000 committed. So what we're now looking for is a further £25,000 of donation pledges to allow us to unlock that final £25,000 of match funding. And that's, when you add that all together, will bring us to our £100,000 target. So also, as well as pledging your own individual support, you can also help our campaign reach an even greater audience of potential donors by sharing it with your own networks. So whether that's with your friends or your family or colleagues or clients, please just go out there and tell them why you support Renewable World, why you think our work is so greatly needed, and why they should support us this December. For this campaign, as I said, it's a really ambitious target that we set ourselves. So we really need to go above and beyond to raise the funds needed for this campaign to hit that £100,000 target. We have run 2 similar match funding campaigns through the Big Give before. Both of these had an overall target of £20,000. So we're essentially aiming for 5 times as much this time round. But as I said, we have a plan, and actually all we're looking for at the moment is just commitments, pledges of to secure £25,000 of online donations during the challenge week. The rest of it, we've already got those commitments. So it sounds a lot, it is very ambitious, but we really believe that it is achievable. So, but for this reason, we really wanted to go out to all our supporters and say, please help us. Please help spread the word. And just to remember that, you know, this is all to ensure that the kind of hilltop communities in Gorka, who, as Lisa has said, have had, you know, this idea and this possibility of having water access in their village, and, you know, a tap stand right outside their house. They've had this dangling in front of their eyes for ages. So we just really want to bring them clean water and, you know, enable them to keep themselves safe from illnesses. You know, water is so crucial. You can't have good hygiene without water. So yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, Emily. Sorry, we're muting and unmuting as we speak. I just wanted to say a special thank you to our trustees and ambassadors for pledging already, which makes this quite mad target seem achievable. And just to stress as well that any amounts, no matter how small or big, because they'll be doubled, really make a difference with this campaign. And to reiterate exactly what Emily said, is to really share this amongst your communities, amongst people that you know, your colleagues, your friends, your family. This will make a huge difference to this campaign. And we can start work potentially in January, which is really quite unbelievable considering where we were at. Setting a target that's 5 times the amount that we've raised already is ambitious. But I'm just really delighted that we're on track and on our way. We just need that extra bit of help for the last amount that we'll get. So just wanted to open the floor again to any questions that anyone has on the campaign or the project or on Renewable World in general.
Hi, Maria, can I ask a question?
Carolina, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wondering if it's possible to have access to some of your gorgeous imagery, some of those photos, because when you're posting, if you're doing it through social media and stuff, that captures people's eyes.
Yeah, so we can definitely share this presentation with you and others afterwards. Catherine, I think you'll have a plan for sharing this actual campaign on social media, and we particularly look at LinkedIn. Catherine, did you want to say a little bit about that?
Oh yeah, well, thanks, Mary. You know, if you don't already follow us on social media, we are on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter, whatever's your bag. It would be great if you join us and join our community online. Yeah, this will be quite a big campaign for us. I've only been here 2 months, so there's a lot to sort of get my head around, but we're hoping to bring lots of images and videos from Nepal to support the Big Give campaign and Y4WASH. So definitely have a look out and please engage and share with us. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anybody else?
Yes, Mary, I had a question. I haven't yet found this page as one of your trustees, so I'm very embarrassed about that. But my question was about, we in the firm in HFW, we have our own matched funding. Is there a way that we can double match, if you see what I mean, use the match funding and then have it matched again, or is that against the rules?
Sorry, just have to coordinate unmuting with Mary. If you're able to make the donation, make an online donation via the Big Give website, then yes, that is possible. So basically the stipulation is that it has to go via the Big Give. So I mean, I'll share the page with you at the moment. At the moment, I'm kind of sharing a landing page on our own Renewable World website, because as I said, we have this campaign page on the Big Give, but the donation button isn't live yet. So at the moment, I'm collecting pledges on our own website. But yes, if you're able to facilitate a card payment in some way to access that match funding from the company, then that is possible. Also, like another thing that you can do, just kind of thinking of that fundraising within your company, like if you were to do a fundraising event between, say, now and the challenge week, even if you weren't kind of getting people to donate to our page, if you were to collect the money in some way, like say you were doing a cash collection, and then someone then collected those funds and was responsible for making that donation online by the Big Give as a kind of lump sum donation. So you can kind of play with it in various ways, but just at the end of the day, the money has to be donated via the Big Give website to unlock that match funding.
Fantastic, thank you.
Okay, one last question from anyone? No? Well, you've done a very good job in explaining quite a complicated campaign, as Stephen will attest to. I spent about half an hour trying to explain it to you the other day, didn't I? So, Phil, I just wondered if you wanted the last few words before we wrap up.
Well, thanks, Mary, and thanks, team, for presenting that. So just as Mary did introduce me briefly earlier, I'm the new CEO of Renewable World. I joined a month ago, so I'm still very much sort of learning myself. You know, I'm personally, you know, incredibly passionate about what Renewable World has achieved and plans to achieve. And you know, this is a really great example in my view, and it's lovely to have it brought to life, as the colleague mentioned earlier, with the sort of pictures and the imagery about, you know, the sort of impact we're having on the poorest of people through this project and as an overall organization. So, you know, nothing more than me really to say on that, Mary. Just the final thing would be thank you very much to all of you for joining this call. Thank you very much to all of you for supporting us in the past, and of course we very much hope that you're able to support us in this project. As Emily said, water is so crucial. It's the lifeblood for people, and if we can just get to this figure of 100,000 in total, it would be a fantastic achievement, and we can't wait to get going and helping these people in the new year. So that's all from me, but thank you very much, Mary, for the chance to speak.
Thank you. Okay, well, if there's no other questions, we'll end the meeting there. Emily's dropped the pledge support link into the chat box, but we'll also share the information afterwards so that you can pledge, share, and watch the campaign with interest. It can get quite addictive watching the campaign during the week. Well, it did for me anyway, so I'm going to try and chill out about it this year, but I'm really confident that we can achieve our target, but it's only with support from our closest friends and our supporters like you that we can do so, and help these communities in this, you know, very needed area and project. Tackle, did you just want to add one final word on what a difference it will make to the communities that we're going to work with?
Thanks, Mary. I mean, I'm also quite new to Renewable World, but what I have seen so far from my recent field visit and from the the impact or the inline evaluations, that we have done recently, the works, that we are doing, they are really the game changer for many communities, that we have supported so far. And we Nepal team, we will give our best, to help the people and use the money in the best possible way. So, I really would like to thank, to all the people, donors, who have already donated, and we really look forward to, show you our works. And if you have chance to visit Nepal, then of course, we would like to show you some of the works, we have done on the ground. So, and I would be really happy to welcome you in Nepal. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Thakur, and thank you, everyone. We'll call it a day there, but please be in touch with Emily or myself or any of the team if you want further information, and we'll be sharing soon after this. Okay, bye for now. Have a good day, all.
Yeah, thanks.
Should we come out of the meeting?